Our Father in heaven, as we bow our heads before you, we ask that thy Spirit will be with us today as we deal with town matters that include our citizenship, homes, housing, infrastructure, and so forth. We ask that thy Spirit will lead and guide and direct us and do the things that we need to do and say the things we need to say for the advantage of our community. Let us move forward in this work. This is our prayer and blessing. We ask this in the name of thy Son, Jesus Christ. Amen. Amen. I welcome the council, the media, with Corey McCarthy, the press, with Neil Creed, and we have two in our gallery right now, President Blaine Jensen from the Historical Society, and Bert Peatgrass, and also from the Historical Society. So welcome. We have additions and adoptions of the agenda. Is there any?
This is not addition, just a reminder, next Tuesday we'll be dedicating the cenotaph, so at 4 o'clock.
Next Tuesday at 4 o'clock, dedication of the new cemetery.
For council. I'll kind of MC it, the mayor will give a few words, I hope she knows it.
I'll do it this time.
4 p.m. sharp.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else? Any additions on the agenda? I'll ask for a motion to accept the agenda. Mayor, motion from the mayor to accept the agenda. All in favor? So moved. All right, our delegations. Wayne, if you'd like to jump up and listen to your...
Sure, thank you very much for this opportunity. Just the little
magic there. Let me make sure we're rolling. You'll just scroll back. Councillor Bengry is here to see us test drive this thing. Hey, there we go.
Oh, there we go.
So there we go.
Go down?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Well, thank you for the opportunity to talk a little bit about what we've been doing with the Historical Society. And I think we've made some significant progress. About a year ago, if I remember properly, we were not in very good shape, if I can put it delicately. And we realized we had a lot of work to be done. One of the challenges we had was we didn't know that we didn't have a clear direction of where we wanted to go and how we were going to get there. So that focus just wasn't there. So with the new board that was elected in January, we got together and started a strategic planning process, which I'm going to give you. You've seen the slides, so I'm not going to go slide by slide to read every slide, but you've seen that. And I want to make comments on the different slides that we go through. And I welcome your comments, and I realize that you'll discuss this later and then provide any feedback to us. And we welcome as much feedback as we can get. There we go. This slide shows us the process of what we are doing. We had to look at why we exist. Why is it the societies exist, and why do we do what we do? Then you go into what we do, and the final step will be how. So the very beginning of this is the bottom one. Next, of course, a SWOT. I'm sure you have participated in SWOT analysis before, but this is just a typical business SWOT analysis. And so when we do these kinds of scans, that gives us the data necessary to put a plan together and a plan of action and set a direction that will guide us for the next 3 to 5 years or beyond. So the timeline for this process began back in March with the election and the beginning of the board. We looked at the SWOT analysis, we identified some issues there. We've been in the process all summer looking at what we found, what our stakeholders have to say. That is, even up to now, We're looking for feedback from civic leaders, from community associations, and come November, December, we will take all of that, we'll put it into a strategy. And that strategy then will help us put an action plan in place. By January, we should be able to start rolling that out and say, this is what the society is all about, this is where we're going to be going, this is going to be our focus. It will eliminate individual agendas and make that a little more community-based than has happened in the past. So that's one of the processes. Of course, looking at our mission, this may affect our mission and our mandate, our objectives, where we're going to go and how we're going to approach that. So this will affect, after we've gone through this process, how we look at what our mission is. And that's filed with the province. That mission is, my speculation at this point, is that we'll have to revisit that mission and tweak that. Because the mission that's actually filed with the province was filed in 1982 or 1983. And at that point, what's happened in the last 35 years is changed who we are and what we're looking at. So I expect that to change. Not dramatically, it's not that we're going to go out and do something completely different, but it's going to focus what we're doing. I think I hit the wrong direction there. We identified 5 areas. The focus of the society is divided into 5 different sections, and these were the 5 sections that were identified as the core of what is the historical society. So those, I think you've seen, and those from all the feedback when we initially started this, said this is the categorization. We also looked at best practices and what other museums are doing. We have also then established a process to establish a shared view or a shared vision rather than 1 or 2 or 3 people's individuals' ideas of where we want to go. So that's why the process is also important. Then the traditional SWOT analysis, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. That's something that we looked at. I'm very interested if you have any feedback on these, if we have missed anything. These are strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats that we have identified, but we want to make sure that we haven't missed anything. Of course, you get those of us immersed in the society, sometimes we get blinders on, and sometimes, often, it's good to have somebody that's not as immersed in to say, well, just wait a minute, didn't you think about that? Why didn't you consider this? So these are things that we have identified that we want your feedback from. Yes?
When you talk about neat cleanup of web pages, I know that in the past an issue was the way the web was being done from overseas here, and that many things didn't have to have proper copyright, etc. So, is that part of your cleanup?
Yes.
Great.
And as we say, the website is both a strength and a weakness here.
Yeah.
We have hundreds of thousands of visitors, over 1 million visitors to our website a year. But the manageability of our website is just not up to snuff. And some of it is privacy issues, some of it is how we manage it, and the technology that's being used. Yes?
Thank you.
Wayne?
Yes.
One of the questions I always had that I kind of thought might be a weakness, and I look at some of the boards that I've been on, like the library board, when they get their executive together, they have a longer term of office. I'm wondering if the Historical Society is looking at maybe having a 3-year term for certain offices, or 2, or whatever.
Yes.
To have some continuity.
Yes, in our last bylaws that were approved and that we're functioning under right now, we have staggered terms. So the executive positions are generally 2-year terms and 3-year terms. All the board members are staggered 2-year board. Every year, half the board turns over.
Okay.
So we've staggered that so that we have more continuity throughout the years.
Yeah.
So a secretary position and the treasurer positions are 3-year terms because those are kind of stability terms or positions. The president and vice president positions are 2-year terms and they're staggered.
Okay.
Does that answer your question there?
Yeah, that's great. Good news.
The other question I may have is regarding the budget.
Yes.
Because when there was an ask from council to help with the 2018 budget, we had earmarked $3,700, which was the asking.
Yes.
But it appeared to me that your asking is to add to that figure for this year's budget, which is a little bit of a conundrum for us because our budget are passed, the mill rate is passed, etc. So there is not really money floating all over the place.
I'm sure that's the case, yes.
So that is a need, in my opinion, to kind of readjust the budget of your society on a term that is similar to what the town has in order for this kind of issue not to occur, so that we can look at the needs of the time rather than with hindsight.
Maybe I could just
Partway
say a word.
partway through the year, we have addressed that in that our budgeting process in the past was delayed. We didn't get approved until
Right.
well into the new fiscal year or the calendar year. We now are back on track to approve the budget. We're having budget submissions being done as we speak. All the committees that need for budgets are being submitted right now. We'll have those in place by the end of October, and we will have our budget for next year.
Okay, so, because it's very important that we sync somewhere, otherwise you have to come and beg.
Yes. And you're right, we did ask for, and I was leaving that to the very end for the ask, if there's possibility for the extra $1,000, we would appreciate it because of the extra costs we incurred. Of course, there's the increased electricity and heat costs and those kinds
Yeah.
of things.
But good budgeting would have foreseen all that stuff.
Yes,
Council, this
it
weekend
would
we
have.
put quite a nice overhead together for us. Can we hold off on our questions?
I thought
and
you
use it
wanted
at
to
the end,
question.
If that's all right?
I
Lynn?
thought you wanted to
Yeah.
question.
It's up to you. I can do it anyway.
I'd like to see your presentation and open it up for you to get into the further presentation myself. I don't know how council feels about that.
Let me, if I may, add one more thing to that. We also, this year, embarked on more fundraising, and that is something that lacked in the last, I've only been involved with the society for 2.5 years. In the last couple of years that I've been involved, we haven't had focused fundraising activities. And we've just had it handed out to you 2 activities that are happening this fall. We've had several during the summertime. And that is something we need to do more of to be able to be self-sustaining. Was that something you were going to talk about?
No, that's all.
Okay, thank you. So those are the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats. I'm open to hearing what you think we may have missed there. Now, after we gather this information, then we have to try and understand it. As we understand it, we'll put this back together, as I said. We'll look at articulating our vision, our mission, our mandate, what our objectives are, what the strategies are going to be. Then we will have annual and then 3-year and 5-year tactics with measurable outcomes. The survey that we've already conducted, you saw the numbers that we have here. It is not a huge number, but statistically it brings it to a realm of being valid. When you get over 100 participants in the survey, then you know you're going to get some validity to the statistics. Anything smaller than that, you can have a margin of error that's a little too large. We think the participation, those who participated in this are quite fairly representative of the population. They're also representative of membership of the society. Emerging themes. These are things that we're finding. Sure, there's a 60% favorable visitor satisfaction, but there's also the flip side of that. That's only 56%. Why? So a lot of the data that we're gathering, it'll just funnel us into focusing into why this. Why is this happening? Why is that not happening? The card home is more popular than the museum. We have some ideas why that is. Better signage. That's both in the community as well as within our facilities. We don't have good signage. When you look at a display, we don't have sufficient signage in those displays. Anyway, these are the trends that we see coming out of this. The website we mentioned a few minutes ago, and it is an asset but a liability, and we have to work through that. That's often the case though, when you look at strengths and weaknesses, you compare those two, and often there's relationships between them. In my experience in doing strategic planning. So there is, one of the things that really shocked me, and well, it actually didn't shock me, but it also rang true to me, was the lack of focus of the museum. The lack of focus, that there were several comments made, well, it's just a nice old building with a bunch of junk in it. And the lack of focus is what's now we're taking that seriously and saying, what is our focus? We really don't have, other than the history from 1887 to today's date, is a pretty broad focus. So we think we have to narrow that focus. What is that makes it unique for Cardston? We are looking for the uniqueness, because people can go and see a cast iron for ironing clothes at almost any museum in North America. Do we need to have those also in our museum? So that's a focus we need to look at. The other thing was this is a list of questions we would like to have feedback from you. And maybe from your dialogue and discussion after later this evening, you could provide us some of this we want frank and honest feedback. If you think something's just not working right, we want to hear that. So, thank you very much for your support. You have been very supportive over the years, and we thank you for that. We hope to improve our relationship. We're trying to get our own feet on the ground, trying to get our own act together, and we hope that we can continue to receive your support in the way of an annual grant. And if there's ways we can improve our relationship with you, we really appreciate having Tim on our board. He is an asset to us on that board and has helped us in focusing. Richard in the past has done the same thing. Thank you very much. Anyway, that's my presentation, and I'm open to questions and comments.
Thank you, Blaine. So we'll open it up to questions. Councillor Selk.
So, Blaine, I know that you said that you have no access to grant writing. The government doesn't give out grants much. They tell you to go get a casino.
Yeah.
Have you done that?
We have gone to grants, but we haven't gone to the casinos kind of thing. Our focus, for example, the outside envelope of the building, we've got grants for that, and we're applying for further grants. We want the building to be accessible. So we're applying, we haven't applied yet, but we'd like to be able to install some kind of lift mechanism so that people with mobility can come into upstairs as well as downstairs as the museum.
So have you thought about going to get a casino?
No.
If I could partly answer that as well, when you look at the makeup of our society, we're not really young. So I don't know how well how many we could get to go to a casino and actually do that kind of
For
work.
$30,000.
Well, I understand that, but
I'll help.
Yeah,
there you
go to
go.
a casino, I'm pretty sure you can get most of the council to go for
All right.
that.
yeah,
There you go.
Okay.
yeah.
That's about a 2 or 3 year wait,
Yeah,
right?
it is.
Yeah.
Yeah,
3-year cycle.
that is.
And that's to go to work at the
At the casino in Lethbridge.
And
yes.
then they give you a grant
A
back.
fairly large amount of that.
$25,000 to $30,000 they give you back, and it can go towards, they give you the list of the things it can go towards.
Okay,
It's amazing.
okay, that's worth looking at.
Blaine, I'm impressed with your overhead, also with your handout. I was looking at your financial statement, and in the past few years, you've had a grant given to you, and it doesn't show up here as a restricted fund, and that's for your building maintenance, outside maintenance and stuff like that. That grant is still in place, there's money still there.
There is money still there in the restricted fund. It is a restricted fund.
It doesn't show as restricted at all on the financial statement, so.
That I will have a look at, because there's, if I remember
About
correctly, about $88,000 that is that we can use to match funds that come in from the government or someone else for renovations and maintaining the building.
Second statement I want to make is, as I liaison with the Historical Society from the council, I'm impressed with your fundraising. It's not up to where we'd like to see it, but it's almost double of last year, and that was double from the year before. So, keep at it. Councillor Brown.
No, I was going to say, I love the focus of this. It looks like you guys are spot on and you have a direction, which is fabulous. I love direction. One thing I would add to it would be the social media aspect of it. Because if you want my generation to get there and take our kids to there, social media is the way to go. If you're Facebooking, Instagramming, this should all be on there so that you're getting us there. Because if you build a joy and a love for museums to my generation and younger, that will keep you going forever.
It'll be on Facebook tomorrow.
Love it.
I just got it
Awesome.
today.
Awesome.
Yes.
That's brilliant, because that is the best way to reach the next generation.
Yes, and we really agree with that. Right now, we only have 88 followers on our Facebook page. And so when we post, there's not a lot there, but there hasn't been a reason to keep people coming back either.
You're right. Yeah.
Blaine, one of the things that I've noticed, and I've gone on the website, and I find the website, if I don't know some of the people that are in there, I can't identify who they are, because I have found that lots of photos in there, but no information about them. So, like, what's it all about? So I guess what the question is what is the intention of this historical society to identify those things? And it's all well and good to have a web page, but if you don't have, good information or information about what's there, it's in my opinion, it's useless. It's nice to look at a picture, but having a clue who they
What
are.
is it? What's the context?
Yeah, what's the context of that, so that can be, so that can be taken care of and maybe a little more user-friendly. I think that would be a good thing. So have you got some thoughts about what you're going to do, and who's going to be your web manager, administrator, and all that kind of stuff? Because it needs to be, in my opinion, by the local group,
Yeah.
not somebody across the ocean, right?
Now, that's one of the things that we have a subcommittee that I'm chairing, looking at using our social media, using our website, using the technology, how we communicate to people. And we've had Shem Simmons, and he has been very good on our committee in focusing on this. Our technology that this website has been built on is not content management based. It's not a data-based system. So to go back and tag every one of those photographs is very laborsome and difficult. So we're gonna have to change technologies here.
Yeah.
And we're gonna have to look at that because we tell the person across in Europe what to do, but then there's a bottleneck, right? And it becomes, sure, he may work for $3 an hour for us, which I'm not sure we can find anybody local to do that. But we can't get the changes as we want them. There's no content management system. We need to change that technology completely, and it's not going to be done overnight.
Yeah.
So I'm recognizing that has to be done. We may partner with other museums, or suggestion has been the University of Lethbridge, which has a system to put the archives in, and then we can manage it ourselves.
That'd be great.
That's what we're looking at. We're early stages with that though, but we're on the same page as you are. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jensen. Blaine, I have your appreciation in bringing this information forward. We have our next delegation coming up, and so we'll discuss this later on in the council tonight. But thank
And
you.
if there's
Blaine.
anything more, just let me know and I'll be glad to help out.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for the time. Really appreciate it.
And you can help our fundraising by helping us fill our 2 venues there.
Yes,
I've already been told that I have no choice in that.
the both events are going to be wonderful that are in front of you. The murder mystery, I believe, I don't know if this has been done in Cardston before.
Kinsman Club used to do them.
Did they?
Yeah,
Okay,
a long time ago.
that's new. Well,
And they were very well attended.
come and you'll have a wonderful dinner. And as well as we have the community theater and you'll be able to help solve whodunit.
Sounds great.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Blaine. We have our next delegation up, Mr. Rocky Williams. We'll invite him up. Turn the time over to you, Rocky.
Hey, thank you guys. Is it all right if my mother joins me? She's the property owner.
Absolutely.
All right. Let's see if you can give these to them.
So,
Give these first, then we're gonna pull. All right. Then, I guess you can, give this to them next. This one.
I think you have pictures.
Yes, we do.
Do you?
Got them.
Okay, yeah, so basically what we're here today is because of this utility pole issue that we have. Like in the past, obviously they're putting in new utility poles and they're switching them out, the old ones. But we've also had issues in the past with
The pole being right in the middle of the driveway. My cousin and mine. So.
Yeah, our next door neighbor is actually our cousin that owns that property. And over the years, visitors that have visited us or her, I mean, there's been some instances where they've backed into the pole that was there. Now, the current damage we have is on our new 2013 Subaru Crosstrek. And maybe you can tell them
Well,
what happened.
backing up and I was going out at night and I backed up and I didn't, they put a new pole in. So I backed up and I backed right into the new pole.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah,
You say it's a 2013 Subaru.
yeah,
Does it have sensors?
it doesn't.
It doesn't have a backup.
It would show on the bumper if you look at the pictures. Usually the sensor is.
There's a sensor at the bump, at the back, and usually it'll show you can back up, but it doesn't.
Doesn't have a backup camera or anything.
No, it's not.
Okay, thanks.
No,
Doesn't feature that option.
I didn't
So,
get a
Rocky,
high-end
you're
one.
here to discuss the actual location of the pole.
Exactly. Now, up until just recently, I just barely this morning measured these poles. And there's, there's 5 poles from where these 2 poles are in the driveway. If you go west, there are 3 poles So I measured from that pole to the next pole.
The new one.
And it was 114 feet to the next pole. And then from that pole to the next pole was 75 feet. And from that pole to the end of that block was 149 feet. So there's a lot of leeway. Initially, I thought that maybe the utility company has to place these in a certain distance away from each other, but apparently that's not the case.
And then there's going to the west.
Yeah, I mean, to the west it's the same. It's like 109 feet for the next pole going towards the east, and 125 feet to the end of the block.
Rocky,
Is your house the red and
with
white
my-
one or the other one?
The white one.
The white one, yeah.
Rocky, with my experience, the limited experience I have, a
Yeah.
lot of times they'll place poles in strategic places because of your house services.
I looked at the
And if you
services.
start relocating poles,
Yeah.
then you have to relocate house services, or you have to drag the line over somebody else's property. It becomes a liability issue, it becomes a whole lot of things. But
When we,
I want to discuss
Yeah, let's,
the pole location on your place. Now, I drove by your place just the other day, and I noticed the new pole has been set right in line with your property line.
it's actually on our, it's about
on our,
2 feet on our property line now.
Mhm.
The original pole, the dark one, was basically in the middle.
in the
Okay?
middle.
Yeah.
Now, was that ever discussed in your RPR when you bought the home?
No, we didn't know anything about that back here.
So did you hit the new pole or the old pole?
The new one.
The new one.
I hit the new one.
And your house is the red and white one?
No, that's
No,
enemies.
That's anime.
Okay, yours is the other one.
Exactly, so it's even more on our,
I
It's
got
more
you.
on ours.
in fact, our property kind of has a little black on it. At one point, we tried
See
to,
that?
Distinguish it, but-
distinguish the driveways.
But it doesn't,
I see.
oh, then if you look down the line where the fence is, it'll show where it is.
Yeah.
It's on our
Now,
property.
also another thing to keep in consideration, from that pole to the end of that driveway where there's grass, on our side, it's only 13 feet away. On NMA's side, it's 22.5 feet. But either way, it seems like it's significant that one pole on either side probably would have solved this problem.
Yeah, because they're taking the old pole out, right? We didn't even know they were putting a new pole in.
We, as a council, will have to look at, bring our electrician in, probably working through our CAO. But it looked to me like the driveway had been poured together at one point in time with the pole still located where it was. And so when we are upgrading our system, then we have to consider the location of pole and why our electrical department decided to put that pole where they did, which to me is an optimum place in line with the property line. But that we'll bring this to the CAO, and he'll probably speak to our electrical department. And I don't know what else to tell you. Councilor Brown.
I just have a question. I too did a drive-by. You had a lot of drive-bys this week, and it was all the council, sorry. So I'm just looking at the picture. So the dark one was the old one? Okay,
Yeah.
so the dark one, did you ever hit?
We did.
Okay, so the dark one you've hit,
In the
the new
past.
one you've hit.
Hit
The
it
one with
harder.
this- So you're asking for money for fixing the car, and you're asking to have the poles, both poles moved to, so if it was in your grass,
Yeah, that's
it
right.
wouldn't be a problem
No problem.
It's totally
on
fine.
either side
On
of the
either
grass.
side.
Either way.
So
Because
you're blaming the town, I just want to be clear, I just want to make sure I understand this in your letter. So you're blaming the town because they placed the pole close to where the other pole was, and you feel like you should have been consulted in regards to it, essentially?
Well, I think before, yeah, I definitely want to be consulted. Maybe at that point, we could have even said, hey, is there a relocation possible? You know,
Right.
I mean, now it's even more on the driveway.
Right.
I mean, even if it was on the driveway on the other side, that probably would never have really hindered any accidents in the past. It's just in the middle is what's really causing it.
And,
Yeah.
one more, we had a new service put on. And the way they angled the service is not straight on. It's on an angle this way. So if they would have put the pole closer to the house
To the
on
grass
this
line.
side, to the grass line, instead of digging the concrete and just dig a hole and put it in the hole in the grass, I mean, then it'll be more, it's straighter. Like, if you look on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, where the electricity flows from the power pole to our house and to her house. It could have worked either side.
Yeah,
It probably would have worked a little bit better on the NMA side.
okay.
But we talked to her before we came here, and she said yes. She said that's been and before
She's had
that.
tenants that have hit it as well.
Yeah.
But you guys didn't pour the concrete?
No.
So that was previous?
Yeah, previous.
So when you bought the house, you knew the poles were there, you knew the
One
concrete
pole
was
was
there?
One pole.
Sorry,
Yeah.
yeah, you knew the pole.
The old-
There was
yeah.
one pole there though.
Yeah.
The old
Okay.
one.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Councillor Selk.
So were you there when the new pole was being put in?
No, we were.
You were out of town?
Yeah, both of us were out of town. I was in BC at our other property, and I don't know where you were at that moment, but she was I think she was with,
The electric, I think, or, no, it
Maggie.
was.
We were both out of town.
Oh, it was, my uncle had passed in Edmonton. So we went to a funeral.
Okay, well, Rocky, is there anything else that you would like to present?
That's my mother.
Mother.
Oh, your mother.
No, that's it.
Yeah.
That's
I was,
the issue.
John Bovey's daughter. Yeah.
Well, I thank you for your presentation and your concerns. We'll be speaking to them later on in the meeting, and like I said, we'll probably be getting information from our CEO
Okay,
and from our electrical department, and we'll pass that on to you.
thank you.
One more, Mom had told me that she had talked to somebody, I don't know who she had talked to previously, to ask for the pole to be removed, because it was in the driveway, and we hit it a few times, so we had to fix the vehicle ourselves, you know. But this one I hit the new pole, and,
New car, new pole, it just kind of, that's what brought us here.
yeah,
Thank you very much.
Yeah,
okay.
thank you guys. Thank you.
Okay, I see another delegation there. Josh, David, you want to come forward?
Thanks so much for your time. Hopefully my moderation won't be too noisy to reinforcements. I've come for two separate items, one with Sage Management, one with the nonprofit owning the Kronen. I'll speak first to the Sage Management one. We've purchased the subdivisions phase 2 and 3 from the Ellison Group out of Lethbridge, up near the golf course there on the top. And we were under the impression upon purchasing, after asking around and through the town, that we'd be getting the existing tax rates that Ellison Group had on it, but we need to re-sign up the development agreement that they had in place with the town to bring our tax rates down to a developer rate as opposed to final consumer rate. So we're just coming to speak on that matter tonight. Yeah, I guess we'll finish on that one, and then we'll go to the next one. If there's any other questions on that. Ellison Group had essentially just made a developer agreement, which effectively lowers the tax rates for all the lots as they're going through the development stage. They had development plans to do phase 2, nothing for phase 3 yet. And of course, with the current rate of sales, they decided that they're going to hold off on phase 2 and indefinitely on phase 3. And as their company was winding up, they decided, well, we'll get it out to someone a little more local. We took the opportunity to buy that. So it takes the tax rate just, so I'll have the exact numbers. I wasn't quite ready for today, but in the hospital as opposed to being at my desk where I probably should have been.
Josh, we've got that afterwards for them. Like, we've got what it was, what it is.
Yeah.
Oh,
Same for-
We'll get it.
I wasn't sure where we
Yeah.
were. I just
Yeah, I got it.
essentially came from there to here, so.
Councillor Barnes?
Josh, did the Ellison Group ever refer to you to the actual transition of the property when it was sold, that there was going to be a different rate in place?
No, they didn't. They just said, make sure you check with the town. I had a quick sit down with Jeff. It was nothing formal, just, you know, this is kind of the tax rate they're at. Do you see any problems going forward? At the time, we didn't see anything going forward. I'm not sure if Jeff was aware that there was a different agreement in place for them than that probably happened before his tenure here. And so we went forward on good faith, assuming that the tax rate was going to be the same, and it went significantly higher on us through the purchase. At closing, we were informed by our lawyers that yes, you're going to be paying more tax. We decided to pay the tax, come back later to see if we can get on the docket to see what we can do about that, as opposed to trying to.
So, let me ask again, in the final agreement, you ended up paying the taxes that was calculated on that property at that time? So you have paid the taxes already?
We paid the taxes.
The
for
higher
this year.
level, the higher
Okay.
tax?
The higher taxes that were.
Okay, all right, Councillor Court?
We have a map of this place. I know I live across the street from it, I'm not quite sure which phase 2 and phase 3 you're talking about here.
You may do well just to quickly explain this, because phase 2 is largely subdivided.
Yes.
But 3 is not. Maybe just talk about the numbers
3 is
we're
to the
talking
west of
here.
there.
Yeah, so the current development, that was phase 1, there's a development of about 40 lots, similar sized lots, 50, 60 foot wide lots.
That's where the houses are right now.
That are just to the east, to the west
To the
of the
west.
current houses.
Okay.
So right where the pavement ends, that's the end of phase 1. There's about a 10-acre plot with 41, 42 titles on it, completely subdivided, ready to go. We just need to put down sewage, stormwater, some of the freshwater connections. And then that one will be ready to go up for sale. And then stage 3 is about a 19.5 acre, completely unsubdivided, unplanned out.
To the west there.
To the west again.
Okay.
And that would be close to, that's right in between where Othius owns and Mr. Levitt.
Down Levitt.
Yeah,
Okay.
over to that 10-acre piece, so.
All right.
Councillor Barnes?
So which parcel are we referring to? Is 2 and 3 or just
2 and 3, yes.
So 2 and 3 both have a different tax rate? Or previously the tax rate was low?
Correct.
And now both of them are going to elevate? Is that
Correct.
where we're at here?
Yeah.
So the fact that number 3 hasn't been developed,
Yeah.
it's still just a piece of land?
Correct.
A bare piece of land with
Yeah.
nothing on there? Okay.
The Ellison, sorry.
Josh, if that was the case, I would surmise that we'd have to talk to our CEO to see if we have land development agreements in place, a stipulation of land use bylaws for that. We would have to consider that, council, I think, on undeveloped land and so forth. Any other questions? Okay, let's move on to your second one, Josh.
Second one is Cahoon Hotel. Again, just going back to the tax rates on that, we've had our tenants leave on us. There's currently no way of getting more tenants in there with the state of the building. You've all seen it, very well aware of where the building's at with the plans. We're moving forward with different items right now, getting, we've had plumbers in there just this week trying to get things moving forward so that we can present something to the government. I'd like to ask council for a reduction in tax rates. It's currently about $5,500 a year for that property, to bring it down closer to that $1,500 a year mark, which would put it closer to where some of the other properties in that neighborhood would be sat at. Just strictly, I'm personally financing the entire thing right now, hoping to maintain the building without getting it tore down, put it into a non-profit thing. And I hope you can appreciate the burden that it becomes to pay taxes on the money that I make and then turn around and pay taxes on this to keep the building standing.
No, I understand that you've had Mr. Strati from Benchmark in and he's looking at the assessment values of that building.
Yes.
Moving forward, do you have anything in mind of what you're going to do with that building and so forth?
Very similar to what we talked about.
I don't think he was there.
I'm not sure if you were
No,
there for
he
the
was
thing.
there.
What we're hoping to do with the building is a complete restoration, top to bottom, to bring in more.
If you don't want to discuss it in public, that's not.
No, it's public knowledge out there what we're doing. And essentially by bringing in retail shops, redoing the hotel, creating a restaurant, but more upscale restaurant on the main floor, as well as a quasi-theater bar to be put into it, that we could sell package tours to the people that are already coming to town to go to the theater, to hopefully keep them in town for more than just 2 or 3 hours, to keep them here, take them on some tours of the surrounding area. We have a rich history and culture in this area, not only of the religious cultures of the Hutterites and Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, but also with the native cultures and their histories. I think we have a very compelling argument to keep people here in town. And
Josh, this is going to age this individual and Mr. Bill Creed from the newspaper, but I can remember, and I'm sure that Bill can also remember, that was a very viable business in the community. It had a bank in it, it had a real good restaurant in it, there was a couple other businesses in there, so, you know, I can remember it as being a real viable institution. Anything else you'd like to say to us?
I think that pretty well sums her up.
Okay, you have a agenda, a request for decision form in your pamphlet, council. So what we'll do, Josh, is we'll have this later on in our council meeting, and I'll have our CA will get back to you.
Thanks so much.
Thank you for your presentation.
Appreciate your time, really appreciate it.
Thanks, Josh. We have our fourth delegation in, but who is going to lead the discussion?
Do you have a spokesperson? Or are you coming up, Clark?
I think they all take a
We're all together.
Come on up. We're going to get your presentation put up here.
Who would like to be the main?
So, see whichever one's that just down there. We'll take you through it. Yeah, and I'll just kill the light above it.
Would you all, as you step forward, introduce who you are and what level of education you need, grade 11, 12, whatever?
Sure. I'm Benson Burson, and I'm in grade 12.
I'm Ashley Pearson, and I'm in grade 12 as well.
I'm Wilson Cahoon, I'm in grade 12.
I'm Sawyer Polachek, and I'm in grade 12.
Okay, now who wants to start it out? So go for it, you guys.
All right. So, as we said before, I'm Benson, Ashley, Wilson, this is Sawyer. And we're a part of the finance club of Carson High School. And this year we participated, well, it's actually the first that's ever being made at the high school. And this year we participated in the U of L finance competition. So there were 3 parts to this competition. The first one was the investment challenge. So this was over a month. This was off campus. We just do this at the high school. We would receive news bi-weekly. And then we'd have to react to that news on a simulated market. So we'd have to buy and sell stocks or commodities like gold or T-bills. We started out with $250,000, and then we'll talk about how we did with that later. Part 2 was a presentation at the U of L on that first month, why we made the trades, what our strong suits were. And then part 3 was a real-time trading challenge, which was fast-paced, very stressful, and it was all short-term, so the news came probably like every minute or so, and we had to react on that news as a team. And 17 teams from around the province competed, so to us it's kind of the basketball provincials, and we'll talk about how we did with that later. But the presentation that we're going to give you just following this is the presentation that we did at that day at the U of L.
Yeah, so like Like Benson said, this presentation, we're going to do it exactly as we did it at the U of L on the day of the competition, and we had to keep it within 5 minutes of the competition, so we will as well today. Hi, my name is Sawyer. This is Benson, Ashley, and Wilson, and we're part of the CHS traders of this year's U of L finance competition. This year we had an overall return rate of 49.8 on a downtrending market. Our game plan for this year was to spend more money compared to last year. Last year we only spent 20% of our initial cash, and our returns from that were very minimal. So this year we decided to spend 80% of our initial cash, and as a result our returns were a lot more profitable. We wanted to use gold as a commodity more effectively. We found that as the market went down, gold would go up, and so as we put money into gold, we were able to get a lot of profit from that. We use T-bills as a buffer. T-bills is a tool that goes up very slowly, no matter what the rest of the market is doing, and so we put the rest of our money in it that we weren't using in other trades to kind of use it as a safety net. We sold half of our position when the market was high so that we could take in those profits and use them into other companies and make more of a profit off those companies. In that, we prioritized where our money went by putting the most money in the companies that would give us the most profit.
Starting off with our first company, we had STR with $1,164 profit. In period 6, we bought 400 shares in the company, and in period 7, we received news that the company was shut down for 24 hours. This cost $1 million of loss for the customers, so we sold all of our shares. We viewed it as long-term bad news for the company. In reality, it was short-term bad news. Next year, we plan to analyze the news a lot more carefully, so we'll make the same mistake we did with this company. Next company we have is MadeBot with a $45,780 profit. This is the company we made the most on throughout the whole competition. And in period 1, we bought 3,500 shares based on news that it made a deal with a reputable hotel chain. We kept these shares until the very end. The stocks just kept rising, so we never sold them.
Next up, we have AGR with a $31,620 profit. In period 1, we purchased 2,000 shares, but based off of good news right at the start and off the thesis that we made that this was a quality company. And then periods 2 through 4, as you can see, there was an overall market downfall. So this wasn't actually the company's fault itself. So in that situation, we waited for a confirmation in the market upswing. And then in period 5, we saw that, so we purchased 2,000 more shares, knowing that it would come back. And then in period 7, we sold 38% of those shares due to predicted 15% correction in the overall market by a well-known analyst. And then period 8, we sold the rest of those shares because there was bad news for the company and the correction was still affecting the overall simulated market, so we decided to sell the rest of those shares.
Next up we have Gen, which made us a $6,900 profit. First off, we believed it to be a quality company, so we purchased 50 shares in period 1. Then again in period 3, we purchased 500 more shares. The market was down, so that means the stock price was less money, so we thought we were getting a better deal, so we purchased 500 shares. Then again in period 5, we purchased 200 more shares because we were waiting for a confirmation of a market upswing. And then in period 8, we received news that 2 of the core founders actually left the company to join a new startup, which we viewed as too much potential competition. So with that news and the 15% correction news, we sold all of our shares, which was beneficial since the stock price went down.
Next we have gold. In this commodity we had an overall profit of $25,469. And right from period 1 we bought gold kind of as a precaution because we were worried of a downtrending market. And as the market went down, gold rose. And so in period 2 we actually sold half of what we had so that we could take in those profits and put them into companies that would give us even more profit. As well as in period 3 we sold a quarter of what we had. And we kept the rest of our shares all the way up until period 7 when we learned of that 15% correction in the market. And we knew if the market had a 15% correction, then gold would rise exponentially. And as you can see, it did.
In conclusion, we learned to discriminate different levels of news, like we discussed earlier. In the company STR, we sold all of our shares on news that only lasted 24 hours.
We also learned that the overall market can affect individual stocks and companies. Even good ones can go down. We had a positive return rate of about 50% in a downward market, and the majority of our trades worked out as predicted. Thank you. Are there any questions about the presentation?
I want to say, you probably felt like you're in the Shark Tank.
A little bit,
The
yeah.
presentation was absolutely great. You learned your finances very well. How many of you are going to go into stockbroking?
We're thinking about it.
Yeah, it's a very viable option for sure. Yeah.
Mayor?
I want to congratulate you on that presentation and on the, you are risk takers but wise risk taker. So it's very nice to see that you could make money. Now to come to your asking, help me understand the reason why you came here to council. Maybe you can do that next stage of the presentation for us.
Actually, first we would like to tell you how the competition went, if that's all right. In the competition for part 1, the month trading, we actually ended up placing 4th overall, which was fairly well. And then in part 2, on that presentation we just did, we actually placed 2nd. And in part 3, on the high stress trading, in that trading room at the U of L, we actually placed 3rd. And so we knew we were somewhere in the ballpark of doing fairly well, and at the end of the competition, they announced that we actually got 1st place.
Fantastic.
There's a picture of our trophy there.
Yeah.
And
Getting a banner.
And how many competitors?
17.
17 teams.
17 other teams, yeah.
And then there's some pictures of us inside of that trading room. It's the only trading room in Western Canada. That's a simulation trading room, I should say. It's only one of its kind. It can run a whole bunch of different kinds of simulations. And there's some of the people that ran the competition and us holding our awards and stuff, and one of the other teams as well.
So Mr. Gibbons is your instructor?
Yes, Mr. Gibbons is our instructor. He would usually be here with us to help us give us this presentation, but unfortunately he had to be at a volleyball game tonight.
Okay. Yeah.
Go ahead with your question.
Do you have a question?
Yes.
Go ahead, finish.
Okay. So our pitch is that we actually planned a trip to Toronto to go meet with some people over there and do a few other things, which Ashley will explain. And we are in grade 12, and we really want to make this a really good educational trip for us. This could lead to future careers for us, and we're just wondering if you might be able to help sponsor our trip there. Right now, the trip will cost around $1,400 per person. But we do have some pledges from the Western School Board, the Carson High School, and the county. And so that leaves us like $800-ish that they pledged to us. So we're around $600 per person right now. The county challenged us to come to you. Yeah.
So you've got contributions from West Wind, from high school?
Yeah.
And who else?
Carson High School and the county.
As long as we come through. The county.
Are you doing anything to fundraise as individuals? Are you doing anything at all, or are you just looking for
Our main
contributions?
source of fundraising is actually our presentations that we're doing, like.
Yeah, we went to some banks as well and gave the same presentation. We gave this presentation to the other villages as well.
Okay. Councillor Brown?
I was just gonna say, I think it's fantastic. I love that you guys are stepping outside the basketball box, right? And you're like looking at different things and I love basketball, no offense, but I think it's brilliant that you're using your brains in this way. I think that's fantastic. My second question would be this. So I see where all of this is coming from, and I love that you've been around. And I must say, when I saw on our agenda, we get an agenda, and it says who's coming to speak to us. I was annoyed when I saw it was Stephen Gibbons, because I thought, if these kids want money, I would love to see them ask for it. So I applaud you for coming, right? I love it. I was super excited that y'all were part of this, because it makes it more real to us. But how much are you actually asking for from council? Per person? 250?
Well, we don't ask for a specific amount. Anything would really help. We also feel that it would be good for us to put some of our own money into the trip as well.
Right.
But at this point, $600 is just a little bit, with like missions
Yeah.
and calls and stuff, it's just a little bit higher than we'd
So
like.
anything will help.
Right.
Yeah.
You made this
Thank you.
presentation to the Rotary Club and the Lions Club.
The Rotary, we're actually waiting to hear back from
Have you
them.
made it to the Lions Club?
The Lions, we did not.
No, we haven't.
The Rotary actually challenged us to come here as well too.
Yeah.
Thank you. Mayor? Kronen?
So give me a little bit of a sense in Toronto,
What's happening?
That's our
Okay,
next
perfect, so
part.
that's our
Yeah,
next
perfect, that's our
slide.
next slide,
I'll be
yes.
covering that. So a little overview of our trip. Our teacher, Stephen Gibbings, he's been talking to Peter Brieger. He is one of the prestigious businessmen up in Toronto. He challenged us to read this book. It's called Market Masters. It's over 500 pages, and it contains interviews with some of the people we'll actually be meeting there in Toronto. So on October 9th, we're planning to fly to Toronto. October 10th, we're planning to meet with Peter Brieger, the guy I was talking about earlier. He's a semi-retired founder of Globe Invest Capital Management. And we're planning to visit the BNN Bloomberg newsroom and watch the recording of some shows, meet with the news anchors, and meet other various guests. That day, we're also planning to visit with Norman Levine, the founder of Portfolio Management Corp., and with Barry Schwartz, the CIO of Baskin Wealth Management. And lastly, with Benj Gallagher. He's the president of Contra the Herd Investment Newsletter. He even wrote a book called The Contrarian, if you guys have heard of that. To finish off the night, we're going to have dinner with Peter Brieger and his wife, Beverly. It'll be hosted by the Globe Invest Capital Management on top of the CN Tower, so we're excited for that. On the 11th, we'll be meeting with Robert C. Kremble, the co-founder of Trimark Financial Corp. Also with Christine Poole, the CEO of Globe Invest Capital Management. So personally, I wanted to meet a female in the industry, so I suggested this to Mr. Gibbings, and then he talked with Peter, and we got to meet with Christine Poole. She actually bought over Peter Brieger's company.
So is there any fun involved?
Then we're going to be visiting the CIBC trading floor, which we don't know what's going to happen there yet. Peter has plans for us that we're unaware of. Then we're going to be meeting with Catherine, otherwise known as Kiki Delaney. She's the founder of Delaney Capital Management. And to finish off that night, we'll be going to a pre-Broadway play. And on the 12th, we'll be visiting the TMX. And after all of our business stuff, we'll be going to Niagara Falls and then driving down to Palmyra for the last day. And then on the 13th, we'll be flying home. So we're very excited for this trip because we're meeting with all the head financial people in Toronto. We're really excited to learn from them and gain some knowledge.
These investors that we're meeting with, their minimum requirement for an investment with them is a $1 million. And so they're very prestigious and would be amazing to learn from them.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any questions?
You're leaving in 1 week?
Yeah,
Yep.
that'll be next
Or you
week.
don't have your funding in place?
Living on the prayer.
Just wondering.
Thank you, you young people. This was a very, very interesting delegation. We appreciate you looking into this. This is a business development for you young people, an avenue that you might seek out. So we appreciate you coming to council and giving your delegation, and we will get back to you.
We appreciate it.
Thank you.
But thank you.
Yeah.
Thank
Thank
you
you for your
Thank you so
time.
much.
Good job, guys.
Thank you. You've done a fantastic job there.
Thank you.
Okay, council, we have adoption of minutes of September 4th, 2018. We will be discussing our delegations further on in the agenda. So have you all had a chance to look at your September 4th minutes?
I'm good of the minutes.
Mayor Kronen moves to adopt minutes. All in favor? Carried. Bylaw and policy, we got the West Area Structure Plan. There's going to be a review by Jeff. There's been another proposal. we can do that in an open,
Oh, yeah.
okay.
Yep.
So Jeff, if you want to take a hold of that, and
You bet. You'll see in your agenda packages, Mr. Schaefer has proposed a different development to avoid having 2A exit out onto 12th Street. By the way, if you look at that, it looks like 11th Street is 200 meters wide. It won't be that wide in the actual, Orsk hasn't given us the final drawing yet on the proposal. I bring it to this meeting just because we have advertised for an additional public hearing next Tuesday, because we're required to on any changes to the structure plan. So if there's any comments from council today, we have a few days in order to tweak anything or to get back to Mr. Schaefer and work out anything between now and then.
yes, Mayor Kronen.
Can I just ask, Mr. Schaefer is feeling okay with the changes that have been made to the structure plan?
Yes, I don't think it's ideal, but he's certainly, he is agreeable to this, this idea. The only thing I will throw out for council is if you look at those two, again, 11th will be shrunk, and those two island lots, we'll call them.
Yes.
So they'll be a little bit bigger to the west. The only thing we've got to sort out in there is which way are they going to face? Are they going to face 11th, or are they going to face their neighbors across 11A? And so we've got to do a little bit of work with Mr. Schaefer on the facing of those. One option would be that council would actually rezone just those two lots to R1 and make them 4.
Yes.
So you'd have 4 normal size lots that you see around town there. Again, Mr. Schaefer doesn't want to do that, and I get that, I totally do. It's just something we got to determine the right facing on those so it's not odd.
So Jeff, those two lots, they're still under the parameters of large residential?
Yeah, they're still state residential at that size, correct.
Okay, now, another question is, we still have space for a holding pond and also for public space?
Well, the holding pond's further east, as it would be, yeah, along 9th, so that just doesn't impact it at all.
And how about public?
He'll have to work out his municipal reserve, so whether that's cash in lieu or land, that'll be determined at the point of subdivision. Again, right now, you're not approving subdivision.
Right.
You're simply approving a plan that could be subdivided. So all that stuff we worked out of subdivision.
Councillor Barnes?
I was just going to say, no matter which way you look at those lots, it's going to be awkward. No matter where the front is or where the back is.
Yeah, you'll have neighbors facing 2A Avenue, you'll have neighbors facing 11th,
Yeah.
you'll have neighbors facing 11A.
Yeah, that's
So
right.
they will.
Yeah.
But they talked about one facing south, one facing north.
I don't know, and you know, this is for the public hearing next week, perfectly appropriate to ask Mr. Schaefer, you know, I'll make sure he's.
That's the only way that it would work,
but
is if the one house was looking that way and the other one was that way.
They were
Also be really
allocated
kind
on
of
the long
awkward
way of the
looking.
lot, yeah.
Yeah. And they'd have to have the placement of the homes kind of further one way so they have a decent side yard.
Again, we'd have to look at the,
Pardon me?
we'd have to look at the structure plan and if that's the
Is this something that's going to come to the MPC at all, or are we?
Well, again, the manipulating an area structure plan is under the purview of council.
Right.
So that's why it's here now, but no subdivision has been applied for nor taken place. So as far as subdivision is concerned, it's one big piece of land, that's it.
Jeff, has our planner from Orsk had a look at this?
Yep, like I said, we'll get a formal drawing from Orsk. Ryan will probably be here next week. He will probably, if I'm gonna guess, tell you he's not crazy about it because he wants denser lots. The same discussion as before, and I get that. He wants to see higher density. However, it seemed to be my opinion, and I think I interpreted you folks correctly last meeting, is that the bigger issue was multiple accesses on the 12th.
Exactly.
Yes.
And so Mr. Schaefer set out to mitigate that by doing this, so.
Any other questions for Jeff?
Okay, so we'll bring this plan back for public hearing next Tuesday.
Good.
Personally, I like this a lot better than what was there before.
Okay.
Okay, council, the next big one is the utility rate bylaw, and all I'm going to ask Jeff to do is just throw some figures up and some calculations, and then we have some time to look at it, put it together for a council meeting. So Jeff, if you want to do that?
Give me just 1 second. This was one of the files I actually changed on your OneDrive today, so
Is this the 6B one or the one before it?
This is 6B, utility rate bylaw.
Yeah, 6B.
Update, I'm not here on mine.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, because Hawken gave me a new one a couple
Right.
hours ago, so. All we did is, it was rounding to the nearest dollar, and it didn't make it look, it made it look odd when we had the annual increase. So now it has the decimal points in it, that's all. What Hawken put together was this increase. You can see what the average annual increase is. I really just have two questions for today, because we're not doing any readings. Is that too aggressive? Is that reasonable, that percentage annual increase? And then I want to talk about a matter on the other page. So this is looking at, the first column is residential garbage, sewer, water, institutional water and sewer, under 50 meters a month, and institutional at 400 meters a month. Those are the parameters we chose to use to do an analysis. So a little feedback on that 2.3 to 3% average annual. That may be a little steep, and we can adjust accordingly if that's what council feels.
Jeff, we don't have the luxury of having the past 5 years, but at which rate did we increase in the past 5 years?
Oh, you know, I had that in the last time we looked at this. Give me 1 second, I'll pull it up if you'll bear with me. Because it was in, I believe, our last, the last committee or the last agenda. Let me see what I got here.
Last committee, I think.
Let me pull this up quick and see what I can find.
While you're doing that, I've got a question here. Maybe you can illuminate me on this, Mayor. The residential slash commercial, is that the water rate there? 15 meters per month? Or is this, because I don't know how you rate garbage, water, and sewer under the same thing there.
Right, so what it's saying is that estimate of water, for example, let's use water.
Okay.
For 2018 to cost you $35 a month, that's using 15 cubic meters.
Okay.
That 15 meters is only referring to the water rate there.
Okay.
It doesn't have an impact.
Okay.
Actually, on the commercial, it has an impact on the sewer. That's
So
why it's
we
there.
change the garbage still 4 bags?
No, that's irrelevant. We just used 15 meters as the benchmark for doing an analysis on all the rates, and then 50 on institutional and 400 on institutional.
It's just to separate the different category of businesses or institutions we have.
Right, so this is okay, so it's got residential, commercial in there, so which one is the residential rate and which one is the commercial rate there?
They're the same.
They're all the same?
Correct, yeah.
Now, Jeff, historically, our requisition's been going up roughly 2%, right?
You know, Councillor Barnes.
So if you look at 2011 to 2018, so I'm grabbing a number of years here, I'm grabbing 8 years here. I'll use a flat rate only moved from $18 to $20, so it moved $2 over the 6 years. We could run that as a percentage, but it's not too bad. But the consumption rate has gone from 45 cents to $1.
Yes.
So that moved 100%, 110% over 8 years on the consumption. I'm just seeing if I did I've got a number of these breakdowns. I just want to see if I have a percentage here.
What is certain is that at $1.03, $1.06, or $1.09, it's still very low in price of cubic meter of water used in comparison of down the round.
So, Mayor, if I
calculate.
Councillor Bengry, if I might, just some percentages. Water for domestic and commercial revenues, water revenues went up 29% over the previous 5 years. So you're looking at 5.5%?
Yeah.
5.5% a year,
So
5.75%
this
a
is,
year?
we're talking 2.3%.
Yeah, between 2.3 and 3.
So it's a half of the rate of increase, right?
Sewer revenues were up 40% over the 5 years. So that's 8%.
Okay, so we are really slowing down the curve.
Yeah.
Councilman, so you're aware of it, we also have in our agenda packages a situation where meters are going to be installed, and we need to look at that situation also.
But, Jeff, well,
Yeah, go ahead.
we know about that. The thing is, we know that the reserve always had a flat rate.
Correct.
Now they're going to get meters and we'll have a proper consumption of water, which was always our hope that they would do.
So it was as per the agreement of years ago that they would eventually get meters
Right.
put in. And as much as it does hurt our revenue, Councillor, and I agree, it's a big hit on revenue, my position is it's still the proper thing to do for water management.
Exactly right. So those rates reflect that loss of revenue?
We did not try and compensate for all of that in that rate. That wasn't the intent of the rate change. The intent of the rate change was an inflationary pacing rate change.
However, Jeff, we main metered the water that goes to Moses Lake, and so we've never lost an actual, drop in our water.
We've always known the volume, correct?
Exactly.
But what was happening is the senior couple, the widower in Moses Lake was paying $100 to $120 a month in water, and in town, that would be considered with us. But that was the agreement. It's not that that was precisely what was agreed to when the water agreement was done. So it's not that that was an inappropriate thing to do. It was precisely what was prescribed. It's just they're looking to get all those meters up and running, and that should, for those that manage their water responsibly, drop their bill.
Councillor Barnes?
Okay, so what's the projected start of metering over there?
Great question.
Okay, so it could be another couple of years down the road, you know?
Here's what happened.
In August, I have a second part to the question.
In August, Blood Tribe Housing installed meters in all the homes in Moses Lake. They did not install a meter we could read. So there are now meters in Moses Lake, we have no ability to read them. And so they're telling us they will rectify that in January, is what we're being told.
But we still have the main water meter.
That surprises me that they wouldn't just come to us and say, hey, what kind of meters we got?
They did.
We gave them the specs.
Not to delve too deep, but we handed them the specs and the
All
supplier.
right. So the second part of my question, there's and logic here in the increase. When I look at next year's rate on average with that 15 meters volume, so overall through the whole year, if they stayed at that 15 cubic meters, the rate is $4.80 over the whole year. It's minimal. It's nothing, right? And then if you look at it in 2021, even then, it's still only about 13 bucks more. So it's not, it's not a significant increase, and we have to keep up to our inflationary factor, or we're going behind. That's all there is to it. We have to set aside money to replace, our meters. We have to set aside money to fix the water systems and the sewer systems, and they don't come cheap. And so we have to be sure that we're not going in a hole.
Eric?
I agree with Councillor Barnes on this one. I also am pleased to know that the increase will level off at this point. We're not as aggressive as in the past, which we had to do. And what I'm wondering is if that loss of revenue should be factored in those rates somewhere.
So, two things I would throw out for thought, because this had a lot of discussion in the office, is one is we've estimated the loss of revenue because we do not know individual home consumption there yet. So hypothetically, if they all use 15 meters a month, that's the loss of revenue. Realistically, it's not going to happen. There's going to be some big consumers, but we don't know where that's going to fall exactly. So there's some estimates there. So I don't know how to account for it when really we don't know what the change is going to look like. That's the only thing I would throw out. We almost need a little bit of time to see
one whole year at least passed by.
what consumption looks like there. Yeah.
Yeah, I totally understand you.
Jeff, we also got to consider that we've got widowers and single people in our homes. And also our town is very, very beautiful with green lawns, lots of flowers. I don't want to discourage that situation. I want that to move forward. So, Councillor Barnes?
Yeah, threw me off with that one, Councillor Bengry. But the usage is totally different out there. You don't have the same situation with the lawns and et cetera, and the flower gardens. There's some that do, but it hasn't been that way. Are we going to consider the same rate as what's in town, or are we going to have a different rate?
Right now, by
Because of the
agreement,
transmission factor?
It has to be the same
by
rate.
agreement, it's the same rate
It's
as
going to be
in
the
town.
same rate, okay?
It's a water agreement that
Yeah.
we had
Yeah.
with them, that
Yeah.
was put in place when they participated in
Okay.
the
I don't have a
building
problem
of
with
the water treatment plant.
Okay.
So that was part of that agreement.
Councillor Selk was actually there at the time, maybe speak to that agreement.
With that agreement, and we're going to be asked by the county for expansion of our water system, will that take that agreement into
No,
place?
well, you have discretion
Okay,
over the
so
out-of-town
there's
water rate. There isn't an
different
agreement to fix a rate for the
Yeah,
county users.
Okay.
But you do have by agreement that the town rate is what's applied to Moses Lake. And that was largely because of the financial contribution at the commencement of that
The
agreement.
onset, yeah.
There was $400,000 forwarded by the
That they
blood
put
tribe,
up, yeah.
in order to tie into the infrastructure, so.
So Jeff, where do you want us to go from here?
I just want a little feedback. If this 2.3 to 3 is comfortable for you, we can adjust it to be less if it's a little bit aggressive. It has tailed off in the last 5 years considerably. But the intent was an inflationary piece annually. And just some feedback before we formalize it as a bylaw.
Okay, so let's just go around the table right now, and let's see where you're sitting. Councillor Barnes?
Well, I look at the rates and I think, you know, my water consumption is a little higher than lots of people.
Big lot though.
And I have a huge lot.
Yeah.
And I don't find it excessive, even though I pay a little bit more. And so I don't have a problem with the increased rate. If anything, I think we're being a little bit too conservative. That's my gut feeling. I would like to see closer to 2.6 or
Okay, 2.7 is the figure, right in the middle. Councillor Drew?
I don't have a problem with any of those figures, so.
Okay. Councillor Selk?
Same, Councillor.
Okay. Mayor?
I think this reflects the desire we had to see the rates going down, but still taking care of the inflation. I'm comfortable with the rates that have been given here.
Councillor Brown?
I think it's reasonable. I think it's very manageable.
Councillor Court?
I heard a gas from the kitchen this morning. I thought my wife was having a heart attack, and she got the water bill for August. Then I heard another gas, I thought she had another one, because then she looked at the NMAX rate. It's almost as much of what you pay for electricity as the administrative fee. So I understand, we need to, this is not a bad increase. I don't know if we do anything about the NMAX administrative fee, because it seems to be rather high to me, but...
We'll be talking about that in about a month, actually.
Okay, okay. So no, I don't have a problem with this. It's lower than it has been in the past. We did when I was on council, understand that user fees need to be, you know, if you're going to use the water, you're going to pay for it. So.
Water is a precious commodity. and
So,
we need to
another question.
Yes.
Yeah. Where are we at when are we going to have to really start getting serious about replacing some of the equipment up here at the water treatment plant? Yeah, because it's been
10 years ago?
10, so that's kind of where I'm coming from.
I think, Councillor, it's an interesting environment because you are going to, I guarantee you, in the next 8 to 10 months, be brought forward a proposal to join in a commission at the time that we need to replace the water plant. So what you have is you'll have multiple jurisdictions at that point, plus the feds and the province looking to fund it. So can I predict the funding crystal ball at that point on a federal and provincial level? No, I have no idea. But that's why you're 3 years in, I think, now to putting away that major utility capital reserve that we just started, actually maybe just the year before the election. I think you might only be two budget cycles in. And so that was the intent, Councillor. The previous council of which you were on now wanted to put on a 3-year rolling average $100,000 a year away in a major utility capital reserve, which we've exceeded, thankfully. You know, knock on wood, we've had some water surpluses, and we've been able to exceed that over that average so far. So do we have millions in the bank for it? No, we do not. We've got, what, I'm trying to think what it was when we looked at this at the last budget, $300 and something thousand, I think, in there.
Yeah.
And that's what's been reasonable to this point. But, you know, when you talk to Bart or Curtis, oh, and I should mention, we just had our water plant inspection. You asked about that last meeting about inspections, and we scored 92%. I think it passes 75.
That's good.
And so it's still performing well, it's operating well, the guys are reporting correctly. So we just scored, I think it was 92% on inspection last month. So there's life there, you know, there's some distance and life in that facility still. And you know, you've chosen to put away in reserve $150,000 a year so that we have some seed money when that time comes.
So I guess where I'm kind of going with this, when at AUMA, and they told us that there's going to be a change in our funding structure. MSI is going to disappear.
2.0, yeah.
They're going to come up with something new. We don't know what it's going to be, and we don't know what the grant structure is going to be like for replacing big equipment like this.
Yep.
And so we only have so much money that we can actually borrow for a debenture to be able to replace stuff like this, right?
Yep.
And so the less we have to borrow, I know sometimes it hurts. It really does. And like I said, I'm not a wealthy man, but I can see where a little bit more increase is affordable if we have to look at replacing equipment and only have $300,000. Do you know what it costs to replace major items in that? It's a lot more than $300,000.
No question.
You know, and if we don't have enough money in there,
that won't pay for the engineering.
It's not,
of water
exactly. So, you know, maybe it's harsh, but maybe we need to bite the bullet and say, hey, I'm sorry, you know, this is what's coming down the pipeline.
Council, I want you all to remember also that we're going to have some pressure on us for delivering water into the county areas.
Yeah.
And we also have a push on us to get a municipal agreement. You know, and that we need to look at the overall situation there.
Interestingly enough, a Mountain View resident asked me that very question yesterday. How close are we to an agreement with the county on that? I said,
we haven't even started.
I said, we haven't got too far yet.
So if I'm hearing to you, Jeff, is let's this from the council, I hope. Let's bring some figures with some bylaw in place. Let's do two figures, the 2% and the 2.7 or something like that. Can we do that?
Why don't
Or
we leave it
just
according to
have
what's
go with the
given?
Well, we
bylaw?
got it at 2.4.
I mean, it's already
3%
there.
right now.
Okay.
With water and
If you're good
Sewer's
with
at
that, all of the council, then we'll have our CAO draft a bylaw with that figure in mind.
Okay, we'll bring it back next Tuesday.
Thank you, Jeff. Okay, we're up to number 7, other business. Do you need a break?
Yep.
Jill just went to get a little food ready, so she shouldn't be too long if you want to just go. She should be a few minutes.
Let's
go.
Let's go to the correspondence then, if that's all right with you. We'll jump down to correspondence. We got a letter from Mrs. Tracy Frank, and I thought it was an extremely well-written letter, and voicing some very much concerns. And I have a concern there. And the Kainai Transition Center Society, I think this Kainai Transition Center Society is more for our information. Mayor?
Can we go back to the letter of Mrs. Frank?
Yes, absolutely.
I really feel it important that we reply to Mrs. Frank.
Absolutely.
Because she's raising there many issues that are also similar issues. And I think it would be important for her to know what steps we have taken regarding those different issues. So if administration could draft a letter, I mean, maybe you want a motion to.
Councillor Selk.
I agree with the mayor. We should need to reply. I also suggest that we send this to
Landmarks.
Landmarks.
Maybe Landmarks.
Or Lydia, whether
Emily,
letters.
Councillor.
To the the Prime Minister.
Do you want to put the...
Do a recommendation to council, and I'll have it drafted for next
Oh,
meeting.
yes, that's right.
I'll make the recommendation, one, that we reply to Mrs. Frank and express our appreciation for the letter, and two, that we forward a copy of this letter to both Ledmott's and Frank.
It's a recommendation, I don't need to have a motion.
You
You
do,
know, I
Oh,
also...
do I need a motion?
yeah, make a motion.
Yeah, recommendation to move
Motion by Councillor Selk
to recommend the letter.
to recommend the meet, so forth. All in favor? Passed.
Yeah, I'll get that to you next Tuesday.
Thank you, Jeff. Okay, the next item on correspondence is the Kainai Transition Center Society. If you read this letter, it's a description of what they're doing out there, and I think it's important for us to know.
Just so you know, this matter's been referred to the ECDEV board, and Ms. Tailfeather is speaking at the next ECDEV board meeting, and the chamber will be in attendance as well. So she was very pleased with that response. You all received that letter to your emails. It didn't come through here, but I was able to get a copy of it. So I had Alex call her and set up for her to come present to ECDEV.
Thank you. All right, with that, I need a motion. Councillor Brown?
Make a motion to take a 15-minute break.
Okay. All in favor? Carried.
Motion is recommended.